Here's what nobody tells you about the moment everything changes. It's not loud. It's not dramatic. It doesn't come with a big speech or a slammed door or tears running down your face. It comes quietly, like a text message on a Saturday morning. Like $8 sent through an app. Like a deadbolt clicking into a brand new lock at 9 o'clock at night. My name is Casey Mercer. I was 32 years old when I graduated from Army basic training. 9 weeks of 4:45 a.m. wake-ups, gas chamber drills, and nights so humid in South Carolina that the air felt like wet blankets pressed against your face. Qualified on a rifle range. I learned to navigate in pitch darkness. I ran miles in combat boots while drill sergeants screamed things at the back of my head that I cannot repeat on this channel. I earned every single second of that graduation. The ceremony at Fort Jackson was enormous. Hundreds of recruits standing in formation, boots shined up, uniforms pressed sharp. The bleachers behind us were completely packed. You could feel the noise before you could make out faces, mothers crying, kids holding glitter signs, dads hollering like it was the Super Bowl. I turned around one time during that ceremony. Just once. Section D, Row 2, seats 11, 12, and 13. I had mailed those exact seat numbers to my father, my mother, and my sister 6 weeks before. Wrote them on a note card, sealed the envelope myself, dropped it in the Fort Jackson mailroom with my own hands. 3 seats. 3 names. Clear as day. All 3 were empty. When the ceremony ended, every single recruit around me got swallowed up by their people. Hugs and tears and noise everywhere. I stood in that formation holding my certificate, watching and doing the math on exactly what those 3 empty seats meant. A woman I had never laid eyes on before walked up to me. A stranger's grandmother, I found out later, put both hands on my shoulders and said, "Honey, we are so proud of you." I thanked her. I meant every word. But those empty seats? That was just the trailer. The real movie starts 3 weeks later when my father sent me a text that genuinely made my jaw drop. And it ends with a deadbolt, a manila folder, and 2 police officers sitting at my kitchen table. You will not believe how this plays out. Stay with me. Welcome to Silent Revenge, where we tell the stories that most people are too scared to say out loud. Stories about standing your ground, protecting your peace, and the moment someone finally decides they've had enough. If this is your first time here, hit that subscribe button right now because we drop new stories every week, and you do not want to miss what's coming. If this one hits close to home, drop a comment below and tell me, because I promise you're not alone. Now, let me tell you about the Mercer family. My father, Frank Mercer, ran his own HVAC business out of Dayton, Ohio. He wasn't hurting for money, steady work, owned his house outright, drove a new Ram 1500 he washed every Saturday morning like it was some kind of weekly church service. Frank was the type of man who kept a mental ledger of every dollar he ever spent on his kids. He never wrote it down. He didn't need to. Lived in his head, organized and ready to deploy the second he needed you to feel like you owed him something. My mother, Linda, was a homemaker. And look, I want to be careful here because I do believe she loved me. But Linda had handed over every decision in her life to Frank so completely and for so long that she'd basically stopped having opinions of her own. She had thoughts, sure. But she kept them locked up the way some people lock up expensive jewelry, tucked away for safekeeping, never actually worn. Then there was Brittany, my older sister, 3 years ahead of me in age, decades behind me in taking responsibility for anything. Brittany got a brand new prom dress. I wore hers from 2 years before with the hem let out. Brittany got $1,500 toward her first car. I got a long speech about building character and a tip to go apply at the Wendy's on Miller Road. When Brittany got her first apartment, Frank and Linda paid the deposit the first month and showed up on a Sunday with a truckload of furniture. When I got mine, my dad clapped me on the shoulder and said, "You're smart, Casey. You'll figure it out." And I figured it out. Every single time. That was kind of the whole problem. Before I shipped out to Fort Jackson, I handed my parents a spare key to the house, The house my husband Nate and I had bought using a VA loan from his 4 years of service, plus every dollar I'd managed to save over 6 years working as a project coordinator at a supply chain firm in Columbus. I sat across from my father at the kitchen table and explained, "Emergencies only, check on the place if something comes up, that's it." He took that key off the table and slid it straight onto his own key ring. No thank you. No nod. Like it already belonged to him. I noticed. I filed it in the back of my mind. I should have paid a lot more attention to what that gesture meant. I enlisted at 31. Just shy of 32. People gave me the eyebrow every time I mentioned it. Why so late? Like grit has some kind of expiration date stamped on it. Here's why. I spent my entire 20s doing what my parents should have helped me do at 18. I put myself through Ohio State, logistics and communications double major, while working 3 jobs at the same time. Winning shift at a distribution warehouse before the sun came up. Tutoring freshmen at the campus writing center in the afternoons. Catering gigs on weekends, hauling heavy tables and keeping a smile on my face while running on 4 hours of sleep. I graduated with $9,000 in student loans and $0 in family contributions. Frank's logic, as best as I could ever understand it, was this: Brittany needed help because Brittany struggled. I didn't need help because I wasn't struggling. The fact that I only wasn't struggling because I was grinding myself into the ground, that was a detail he found very convenient to ignore. After Ohio State, I landed a decent job at a consulting firm in Columbus. Good pay, stable, nothing to complain about. But I kept feeling like something was missing. Nate had served 4 years before we met, and the way he talked about his time, not like someone looking back on the past, but like someone describing the place that finally finished building them, it stuck with me. So, just before I turned 32, I walked into a recruiting office on North High Street and signed my name. Frank's reaction was a half shrug toward the TV. My mother said, "Be careful, honey." Brittany's very first response, swear to God, was, "Does this mean you're gonna miss my engagement party?" Before I left, I set up an automatic bank transfer. $400 a month, first of every month, straight into Frank's checking account. He never came right out and asked for money. But every single Thanksgiving without fail there would be some version of the same speech: property taxes going up, water heater giving trouble, Brittany needs help with this or that. So I just got ahead of it. Set up the transfer through my app one night while Nate was asleep. Call it what it was, a monthly guilt payment on autopilot, no conversation required. On top of that, I paid off Brittany's credit card twice. $1,100 the first time. $2,200 the second. Both times she said she'd pay me back. Both times that sentence just quietly disappeared into the air. Basic training does something to you. Not just physically, it strips everything down to the wire. No distractions, no noise. Just you and whatever you're actually built from on the inside. Every Sunday we got 10 minutes to call home. 10 minutes. They handed those out like they were something precious, because they were. I called Linda every week. Week 1, she asked how I was holding up. I told her about the red South Carolina clay that stained everything, the drill sergeants, the schedule that started before most people's alarms go off. She listened for maybe 90 seconds. Then, smooth as a lane change, "Casey, you should see the venue Brittany and Derek picked. The Grandview Estate out in Oakwood. $350 a plate, can you imagine?" Week 3, I called again. Frank answered Linda's phone. "Your mother's at a cake tasting with Brittany. I'll pass it along." He hung up before I could say another word. The whole call was 42 seconds. I counted. Week 5, I tried Frank directly. Straight to voicemail. Next Sunday, same thing. The Sunday after that, same thing. 3 weeks in a row. I stopped trying. The only mail that came to Fort Jackson with my name on it was from Nate. A postcard, our Beagle mix pretzel sitting in a sunny patch on the back porch, looking fat and content. On the back Nate wrote, "House is good. Pretzel is getting round. Come home soon. I'm proud of you." I kept that postcard in my left cargo pocket for 6 straight weeks. One morning during formation, my drill sergeant, Sergeant Cole, this compact, no-nonsense woman from Memphis with a voice that could rattle your back teeth from across a field, pulled me aside. "Mercer, Family Day is next week. You got anyone making the trip?" I looked her straight in the eye. "Yes, Drill Sergeant." She held that look for about 3 full seconds. Drill sergeants always know. She gave one short nod and moved on. I had lied. Nobody was coming. Family Day was the afternoon before graduation. The base gates opened up and families came flooding in like water through a busted dam. SUVs with balloons tied to the antennas. Grandparents in folding chairs. Little kids in their best outfits running full speed at their recruit like they'd been holding their breath for 9 weeks. I watched from the barracks window for a while. Sergeant Cole found me about 20 minutes in. No speech, no pity. She just said, "Walk with me." She walked me across the parade field to a family gathered around a recruit named Private Okafor. Tall kid from Cleveland, couldn't stop smiling. His family had driven 11 hours and showed up with a full cooler of food. His mother, Mrs. Okafor, was one of those women whose warmth hits you before she even opens her mouth. Loud laugh. Arms that knew exactly what to do when someone needed them. Sergeant Cole said simply, "Mrs. Okafor, this is Specialist Mercer. She could use some good company today." Mrs. Okafor didn't ask a single question. She just grabbed me into a hug like she'd known me for years and said, "Baby, sit down. You hungry? We've got rice, plantains, everything. Sit down, sit down." I sat with those strangers and ate good food and laughed at Private Okafor's stories about surviving week 1. Meanwhile, my own mother was at a bridal boutique in Yellow Springs, trying on Mother of the Bride hats with Brittany. I know because Linda posted the photo to our family group chat at 1:47 that afternoon. Big smile on her face. Price tag still swinging from the brim of the hat she was wearing. Graduation morning came in hot and bright. Salutes and speeches. I crossed the stage, shook the commander's hand, took my certificate. I looked out at the bleachers one last time. Section D, row 2. 3 empty seats. After the ceremony, I checked my phone. One text from Linda. "So sorry, honey. Your father had to help Brittany with a venue deposit. We'll celebrate when you're home. You understand, right? You understand, right?" 4 words. My mother used that phrase like a passkey to every door she didn't want to actually walk through. Nate was waiting at Columbus Airport with a handwritten sign that just said PFC Mercer. He had my rank wrong, but I didn't care, and a grin that made the whole busy terminal feel quiet for a second. He hugged me hard in baggage claim, his chin resting on top of my head. "I'm sorry they didn't come." "I know." We drove home. Pretzel nearly knocked me flat at the front door. I unpacked, hung my dress uniform in the closet, sat on the edge of our bed, and stayed there for a long time. Not crying. Just sitting. Feeling something heavy and slow moving inside me, the way tectonic plates shift. You don't hear it. You just know the ground is different now. Okay, before we go any further, I need you to do something real quick. If you've ever been the person in your family who always figures it out, who always comes through, who everyone quietly counts on while nobody counts on showing up for you, drop a number 1 in the comments right now. 'Cause what happens next in this story is going to hit you somewhere deep. Keep watching. The next morning I drove to my parents' house. 15 minutes across town. Linda answered the door in her bathrobe, holding her coffee, looking genuinely surprised, like she'd forgotten I existed. "Oh, Casey. When did you get back?" "Yesterday." Frank was in the den watching a Reds game. He glanced up. "Hey, kid. You look thinner." That was it. No congratulations. No questions. Not one word about the graduation they skipped. He turned right back to the game. Brittany showed up 20 minutes later carrying a thick white wedding binder with Brittany and Derek on the spine in gold letters, and she proceeded to brief the kitchen table for a solid 40 minutes about seating charts. The florist was highway robbery. The DJ wanted a deposit by Thursday. The bridesmaids' dresses came in the wrong shade. Champagne, not blush. There was a difference, Casey. How did I not understand the difference? She didn't ask me one single question about Fort Jackson. Not one. I sat there listening and felt something I can only describe as a door swinging open inside me. A door I'd been pressing against for years and years, suddenly with no resistance on the other side. On the drive home, I pulled up my bank app at a red light. The $400 transfer had gone through on the 1st. Same as every month. No text from Frank. No acknowledgement of any kind. Just a debit and silence. Then Nate told me about the garage. He'd tried to mention it during training, but he'd kept it light. Your dad dropped some stuff off, said he needed extra space. I had pictured a box. Maybe two. Some old tools. I opened the garage door and stopped moving. Frank had converted my garage into a storage extension of his house. 3 fishing rods mounted on a wall rack, attached using screws he had drilled directly into my drywall without asking. A big red 6-drawer toolbox that had to weigh close to 250 pounds loaded up. A mini fridge plugged into my outlet, humming like it owned the place. A folding table. 2 taped-up cardboard boxes with nothing written on them shoved against the far wall. He had used the spare key to walk into our home while Nate was at work. Never called ahead. Never asked. I phoned Frank that evening. Kept my voice completely flat. Dad, there's a lot of your stuff in our garage. I had the key, didn't I? House was sitting empty most of the day. I needed the room. You put holes in my drywall. It's a couple of anchors. Relax, Casey. I didn't argue. I said okay and I hung up. Then I spent 45 minutes walking through that garage with my phone camera, every item, every angle, timestamp on every single shot. 3 pages on a yellow legal pad. Item, condition, rough value. Then I opened my bank app and canceled the auto transfer. Effective immediately. I told nobody. Not Nate, not Linda, not Frank. I just shut the tap off and watched the clock. 11 days. That's how long it took before my phone rang. Casey, honey, your father checked the account and the deposit didn't come through. I canceled it, Mom. Dead silence. Kind where you can practically hear the gears turning on the other end. You cannot do that. Your father depends on that money. Frank has a paid-off house, a new truck, and a steady business. He doesn't depend on my $400. That is not the point. Family takes care of family. Family shows up, Mom. Family shows up. More silence. Then the pivot, smooth and practiced, the same move she'd been running my whole life. After everything your father sacrificed for you, Casey, tell me one specific thing he did for me that he didn't also do for Brittany. One thing. She couldn't answer. And the reason she couldn't answer was the entire point. 10 minutes later, Frank called. What's this about you cutting off the money? I stopped the transfer. That's $400 a month. Your sister's wedding is 2 months out and you're pulling this right now. Brittany's wedding has zero to do with my bank account. Family steps up, Casey. That's what you do. You didn't step up to my graduation, Dad. 5 seconds of silence. I counted every one. The line went dead. I put my phone on the counter. Nate looked up from the couch. Pretzel put her chin on my knee. I scratched her ears and watched the wall for a while. The first thing had tipped over. I could feel everything else starting to wobble. 3 weeks later, on a regular Saturday morning in October, my phone buzzed. I was making omelets. Nate was reading on his tablet. Pretzel was under the table doing her usual routine, waiting for crumbs that never came. Text from Frank. Casey. Need $8,000 for Brittany's wedding. Venue deposit due Friday. Send it to my account. I read it twice. Not because I was confused by it, because I wanted to sit with the sheer nerve of it for a full second before I reacted. No greeting. No, I was wondering if you might be able to. No, I know this is a lot to ask. Just I need. And send it. Delivered with the same casual energy as a grocery list. I walked over to Nate and held the phone out. He read it. Set his tablet down. Took his glasses off. He is not serious. He is dead serious. I went to Instagram. Brittany's latest post from the day before, a mirror selfie at a bridal shop, wearing a gown with a cathedral train spread out behind her on the floor like something from a magazine. She had tagged the boutique. I clicked through. The gown was listed at $4,400. My father was asking me for $8,000 to help pay for a wedding where the bride was test driving $4,400 dresses. I put my phone face down, walked to the bathroom, turned on the shower, and stood under it for 12 minutes. Not crying. Just thinking. Running every number I knew through my head. I came out knowing exactly what I was going to do. Nate had poured me a fresh coffee without being asked. That was Nate always. No fanfare, just quiet, steady action. Walk me through what you're thinking, he said. I sat down. In 3 years, I have sent Frank $14,400 in auto transfers. $400 a month. 36 months. I paid Brittany's credit card off twice. $1,100 the first time, $2,200 the second. That's $3,300. Put it all together, Nate. I have handed $17,700 to this family. It all went one direction. Nobody has ever once asked Brittany to kick in a single dollar for anything. He didn't say anything. He just let me keep going. And now he texts me, no question mark, no please, just I need $8,000. Send it. Nate leaned back. What are you going to do? I opened Venmo and pulled up Frank's profile. I'm going to give him exactly what this relationship has been worth. Nate studied my face for a second. Corner of his mouth moved just slightly. Not a grin, more like quiet recognition. He kissed the top of my head and went back to the couch. That was one of the things I loved most about Nate. He never steered me. He never pushed me toward the answer he wanted. He asked what I needed, and then he got out of the way. After 32 years of being told what my job was in this family, the responsible one, the self-sufficient one, the one who always came through, his willingness to simply step back was worth more than any speech anyone had ever given me. I looked at the Venmo screen. I typed the amount. $8. Memo and best wishes. My thumb sat over the green button for about 10 seconds. Nate looked over from the couch without saying a word. Just raised one eyebrow. I pressed send. Oh, it gets so much worse from here. Before we go any further, if you're watching this on YouTube right now, I need you to subscribe to Silent Revenge and hit that notification bell. 'Cause what Frank does when he sees this notification is going to have your jaw on the floor. Do not go anywhere. 47 minutes of quiet. Then Frank called. Then called again. Then a third time. Text from Linda. Call your father immediately. Text from Brittany. Are you seriously kidding me right now? I switched the ringer off, put the phone in the kitchen drawer with the takeout menus and the dead batteries, and closed it. Nate and I ate breakfast. Scrambled eggs, sourdough, orange juice. We talked about cleaning out the gutters before the first hard frost, and whether Pretzel needed her annual vet checkup. Normal, quiet, ordinary morning stuff. Somewhere across Dayton, my family was losing it over $8. I was refolding kitchen towels. It was the most at peace I had felt in years. That evening, I fished the phone back out. 11 missed calls. 6 texts. 1 voicemail from Frank. You have 1 week to fix this, Casey. 1 week. After that, as far as I'm concerned, you don't have a father. I put it back in the drawer. The family group chat had gone nuclear. Brittany had screenshotted the Venmo notification, $8. Best wishes. and dropped it in the chat with no caption. Just the image sitting there like a lit match. Aunt Shirley was first. That is just cruel, Casey. Your father came to you for help and you mocked him. Uncle Harold, he asked you nicely. You should be ashamed. Linda, I raised you better than this. Cousin Devon stayed quiet. He was always the one in that family who watched before he opened his mouth. Pylon kept growing. 15 messages in 20 minutes. Every single one some version of the same thing. I was cold, ungrateful, tearing the family apart. Not one of them mentioned graduation. Not one person asked why I sent $8 instead of $8,000. Not one person stopped to ask whether the original request was even reasonable to begin with. But then one message made my blood run cold. Uncle Harold replying directly to Brittany's screenshot. Frank still has a key to Casey's house. Maybe he should just go over there and have a real talk face to face. I read it 3 times. Nice and slow. My father had a key to my house. My uncle was suggesting he use it to show up without being invited. And every person in that chat just scrolled right past it like that was a totally normal thing to say. I walked across the living room and held my phone up for Nate to read Harold's message. His jaw tightened. We're changing the locks. Tonight. He was already up reaching for his jacket. 30 minutes, he said. The door closed. I sat in the quiet house alone and just breathed. Nate came back from Home Depot with a bag full of hardware. New deadbolt. New keypad door handle. New code for the garage. He started on the front door while I held a flashlight, kneeling in the porch light and working like a man with a purpose. While he drilled, I went to the garage and documented everything Frank had left behind. 3 fishing rods. 1 tackle box with a latch that didn't close right. The 6-drawer red toolbox, fully packed. The mini fridge, still on, still holding 4 cans of beer that weren't mine. Folding table. 2 mystery boxes taped shut. Every item photographed. Date, time, every angle. Yellow legal pad, 3 full pages. Everything went into a manila folder I put on the kitchen counter. Then I texted Frank. 1 message. No emotion in it whatsoever. Your belongings are in our garage. You have 7 days to arrange pickup during daylight hours. We will be home. Please call ahead. No reply. Nate finished up by 9:15. Checked every window in the house afterward. That was just who he was. When he came back to the living room, he was holding something in his hand. A key. Brass. Brand new cut. He'd found it at the bottom of the toolbox, tucked underneath a shop rag in the last drawer. Copy. Frank had made a secret copy of the spare key I'd given him, and hidden it in equipment he was storing in MY Garage. I took it from Nate's hand and dropped it straight in the trash without saying a word. That night I did something I hadn't planned on doing. I started scrolling backward through the family group chat. Not looking for anything specific. Just looking. The way you look through old photos when something feels off and you can't quite name it yet. I found it about 4 months back. The week I announced my enlistment. Brittany had written, if Casey's leaving for basic training, who's going to be around to help with wedding planning? Linda replied, don't stress about that. She'll keep sending money. She always comes through. And then Frank. 6 words sent at 11:52 on a Tuesday night. That girl has been our fallback since her first paycheck at 16. Their fallback. I read it 4 times, 5 times, waiting for the meaning to shift. It didn't. I kept scrolling. Found a thread from 2 years before about Brittany needing a vehicle. Frank, give Brittany the second car. Casey can sort out her own way to work. Linda, I feel a little bad. Should we at least check in about her rent? Frank, she handles herself. She always does. She always handles herself. 'Cause I had no other choice. Because nobody ever offered me the option of not handling myself. I sat in my car in the newly locked garage with the lights off, reading words nobody ever meant for me to see, and every single thing that had always felt slightly crooked about growing up in that house finally lined up straight. I understood it now. All the way through. I wasn't the daughter they forgot about. I was the daughter they had built their whole plan around forgetting, the one who would always pull through, always send money, always be fine, always understand. A walking safety net they never had to acknowledge or thank. I let myself cry for about 5 minutes. Then I stopped. Wiped my face. Took 3 deep breaths. I had shed enough tears for people who had never once shed any for me. Inside, Nate was at the kitchen table with his laptop open. I slid my phone across to him without a word. He picked it up and scrolled. He didn't say much, just quietly put his hand over mine and left it there. Clock on the wall ticked. Pretzel snored under the table. Someone's sprinkler was running outside. I'm done being the person who understands, I said. Nate squeezed my hand once. So what comes next? He's got 4 days left to collect his things. If he doesn't, he doesn't. I went to bed that night and slept hard. No dreams. Kind of sleep you get after you put down something you've been dragging around for way too long. Day 5 of the pickup window arrived. No word from Frank. I came home from work to find Nate at the kitchen table with his laptop already turned toward the door. Doorbell camera footage. 2:23 p.m. Frank's Ram pulling into the driveway. Frank climbing out. Walking to the garage. Punching in the old code. Wrong. Punching it in again. Wrong. 3rd try. Wrong. He walked to the front door and tried the old key in the new deadbolt. Nothing. That lock didn't know him at all. He stepped back and stared at the door like it had personally disrespected him. Then he walked back to the garage and kicked it, one hard flat kick right at the base. Camera caught it clearly. Caught the scuff mark his boot left on the white paint too. He stood in that driveway for 18 minutes. Just stood there. Then he got in his truck and drove off. 20 minutes after that, a text. This is ridiculous, Casey. Just open the door. I only want my stuff. Me, I gave you the pickup procedure. Call ahead. We'll be home. Daytime only. Frank, I don't need my own daughter's permission to come over. Me, it's not your house, Dad. 3 typing dots appeared. Disappeared. Nothing. Nate took a photo of the scuff mark on the garage door and added it to the folder. Day 6. Linda showed up at Fort Jackson, actually drove out to the base. She couldn't get past security. Civilian visitors need a military sponsor and Linda Mercer didn't have one, so she parked in the visitor lot and called my cell. I walked out in full uniform. She was leaning against her Camry in the cold, arms folded, eyes puffy and red. She started talking before I even reached the car. Your father can't sleep. He's barely touching his food. You are destroying this family, Casey. He destroyed something when he skipped my graduation to go help Brittany with a venue deposit. That's not a fair comparison. She needed us that day. I needed you too, Mom. I stood on that graduation field in front of hundreds of people and not one face in the bleachers was mine. A stranger's grandmother told me she was proud of me. Her lips started to tremble. For just 1 second I thought maybe she actually hears me this time. Trembling stopped. Her face went hard. If you don't work this out with your father, he's going to take it very personally. You know exactly how he gets. There it was. Every time. Not an apology, not an honest conversation, just a warning dressed up in a concerned voice, carrying the weight of a threat underneath. He can feel however he wants about it. My answer is still no. She got in her car without another word and drove back down the access road. She had driven 40 minutes to cry in a visitor parking lot at a military base. She had never driven 4 hours to watch me graduate. I walked back to my desk. My hands were shaking slightly. My voice had not cracked once. I held on to that. Day 7. Deadline. Frank never called. Never texted a pickup time. Never sent a single person on his behalf. I sent one final message at 9 in the morning. The 7-day window is now closed. Your items are organized in the garage. Supervised pickup is available this weekend. After Sunday, anything remaining gets donated. His reply came back in under 2 minutes. If you donate my property, that is theft. I will have you charged. I showed it to Nate. He shook his head slowly. It's not theft. We gave written notice. We documented everything. I knew that. But Frank wasn't making a legal argument. He was making the only move he had left. Clear ownership, sound aggressive, and see if I back down. It was the same play he had been running since I was a teenager. Claim something that didn't belong to him, raise his voice about it, and wait for me to fold. I didn't fold. That afternoon I organized everything one final time. Every text, printed and dated. Doorbell footage on a thumb drive. Photos of every item with timestamps. The itemized list. The scuff mark photo. The original pickup notice. His non-response. Everything went into the manila folder. That is thorough, Nate said. The Army drills it into you. First week, a supply sergeant told me, if it's not written down with a date on it, it never happened. Well, Nate said, everything happened. And I've got every single bit of it documented. Saturday morning. Both of us home. House clean. Folder on the table. New deadbolt locked. 9:15 a.m. the doorbell rang. I opened the front door. Frank stood on the porch in his work boots and a flannel shirt, hands loose at his sides, jaw set hard. Behind him in the driveway, Linda sat in the passenger seat of his truck with the engine still running. She didn't get out. I want my things, he said. Come through the front. We'll walk you back to the garage. I'm not being escorted in my own daughter's house. You're not being escorted. We're being present. Those are two different things. He looked past me and saw Nate standing in the hallway. Something moved through his expression, not just anger, something more calculating. Then he stepped inside. We walked him to the garage. Every item was lined up against the wall, neat and labeled. Fishing rods wrapped in bubble wrap, tagged. Toolbox wiped down, drawers shut. Mini fridge unplugged, cleaned out, defrosted. Tackle box latched. Boxes stacked in order. Frank stopped in the doorway and stared at it. He had come ready to be outraged about chaos. Instead, he got military-grade organization. He didn't say a word about it. He went straight to the toolbox. In the bottom drawer. Felt around under the liner. Looked up at me. The key. Found it, Nate said evenly. Threw it out. Frank's nostrils flared. He closed the drawer and started loading boxes into the truck. I handed things over when he needed them. Neither of us spoke. Just the sound of cardboard on concrete and the tailgate taking weight. Halfway through, he stopped. Turned around slowly. Leaned on the tailgate and crossed his arms. Think you're real smart, huh? His voice was low and tight. Changed the locks, cut me off, sent your mother crying to a parking lot at a military base. Real smart. I said nothing. Waited. I am your father. I put food on that table for 18 years. Roof over your head. Taught you to ride a bike, taught you to change a flat tire. And what do I get? $8 and a brand new deadbolt. You didn't show up to my graduation, Dad. He waved his hand at me like I was being ridiculous. Basic training isn't a real graduation. Brittany's wedding, now that was a real event. A real milestone. Something that actually mattered. Not a real graduation. 9 weeks. Gas chamber drills. Qualifying on a rifle range in full gear. standing at attention while a commander pins your rank. And he stood in my garage and told me it didn't count. Nate stepped forward. Teddy. Sir, with all due respect, your daughter served this country. That ceremony was real. Frank's finger came up fast, pointing at Nate's chest. You stay out of this. This is between me and my daughter. I moved into the space between them. Calm. No aggression. Just present. Nate is my family, Dad. He showed up for me. You didn't. Frank's hand dropped. His face moved through 3 different things in about 2 seconds. Surprise. Anger. And then something I had genuinely never seen on that man's face in 32 years. Something close to fear. The specific fear of someone who just realized the room he thought he controlled doesn't have any walls left. He loaded the last box. Slammed the tailgate. Got in the truck without looking back at me once. Linda stared straight ahead through the windshield and did not look my direction. Truck backed out. The street went quiet. I need to stop you right here. What Frank does next, this is where the story turns into something none of us saw coming. If you're not subscribed to Silent Revenge yet, do it right now. Tap that subscribe button. Because what happens in the next few days is the part of this story people are still talking about in the comments. Monday morning, Brittany called me directly. Her voice was measured, rehearsed like she'd practiced in the mirror. Look, I know things are tense, but this wedding means so much to me. I'm not even asking for the full 8 anymore. If you could do 3, even 2, it would help so much. Brittany, what did you do for my graduation? What? That was basic training. What did you contribute? Any of you? One thing. Casey, you've always had this chip on your shoulder about me having an easier time growing up. This isn't really about money. This is old jealousy. Jealousy would mean I wanted what you had. I just wanted my family to show up. My answer is no. Fine. Her voice went flat and sharp in about half a second. Then don't expect a seat at my wedding. I am not having someone at my celebration who resents me. Okay. That landed differently than she expected. She'd been ready for me to scramble, to apologize and beg and negotiate for an invitation back. Instead, I gave her one word and waited. Okay? That's it? What would you like me to say? She hung up. I finished my coffee and watched a cardinal sit on the fence post outside. I hadn't planned on attending, but hearing the invitation pulled still landed somewhere. Not where she meant it to, just somewhere quiet and real. That week I built a document. Not for any lawyer, not for court, just for myself. Clean, factual timeline. No dramatic language. Just dates and what happened on them. Auto transfers to Frank, 36 months, $400 each. Total, $14,400. Brittany's credit card bailouts, $1,100 plus $2,200. Total, $3,300. Grand total out of my pocket flowing one direction over 3 years, $17,700. Family members at my graduation, 0. Days between graduation and the $8,000 text, 22. I called my army friend Amara, one of the sharpest people I knew, someone who had navigated her own rough family situation while serving. Keep everything in writing, she said. Never have a conversation on the phone when you can do it by text. Text is a record. And Casey, if they ever show up at your door again without being invited, you call the non-emergency line before they even get out of the car. Whoever calls first shapes the story. That stuck. I opened the family group chat and drafted a message. Full timeline, all the numbers, the group chat screenshots, the whole picture written out clean and factual. I saved it to my notes. I did not send it yet. Brittany's wedding was 9 days away. I'd know when the moment was right. The wedding was on a Saturday in November. Cold, overcast, 48 degrees, and the kind of sky that photographs beautifully with the right filter. Nate and I stayed home. I made a big slow cooker chili. He raked leaves while pretzels sprinted in circles through the piles. Nobody mentioned the wedding once until my phone started buzzing around 4 in the afternoon. Social media. Brittany's friends tagging everything. Photos pouring in. Brittany glowing in white. Frank walking her down the aisle in a rented suit, chin up, chest out, proud as anything. Linda in the front row with a lace handkerchief. I scrolled through those photos the way you watch a movie about people you used to know. Interested but separate. Like someone else's family through a window. 5:18 p.m. My cousin Devin texted me privately. Hey. Heads up, your dad has been telling people all night that you got deployed overseas. That's why you're not here. He's been saying it to everybody. I read it twice. Deployed. Frank told 100 wedding guests that I was serving overseas, heroically unable to attend. Instead of, my daughter stopped answering my calls because I treated her like a bank account for 30 years. He didn't just miss my graduation. He rewrote the entire story. Turned himself into the proud military father with a daughter serving her country, instead of the man whose daughter finally stopped funding everyone else's life. Nate came in from the yard with leaves in his hair. Everything okay? Yeah, I said. I actually think it is. And I meant it completely. At 8:22 p.m. during the reception, I opened the family group chat, pasted the document I'd written, and pressed send. Every phone at that head table buzzed at the same time. The chat went off in 3 minutes flat. Aunt Shirley, Casey, this is Brittany's wedding day. How dare you? Uncle Harold went completely silent. He'd just read the numbers, $17,700, 3 years, one direction. He didn't post again all night. Linda, these are lies. None of this happened the way you're saying. I didn't respond. I had said everything I had to say. The document stood on its own. At 11:41 p.m. a text came, not to the group, just to me. With a photo attached. Brittany. In a venue bathroom. Wedding dress wrinkled at the hem. Mascara running down both cheeks. She looked genuinely beautiful and genuinely devastated, and I felt both of those things at the same time. You ruined my wedding. I typed back one sentence. I wasn't there. How could I ruin it? She didn't reply. Frank sent nothing. No text. No call. No voicemail. Complete silence. That silence made me uneasy in a way his shouting never did. Nate and I watched a movie that night, some action thing, lots of explosions. I fell asleep on the couch. He put a blanket over me and let me sleep until morning. Sunday was peaceful. I didn't check the group chat. I took Pretzel to Eastwood Park, came home, made dinner, lived a completely regular Sunday. Tuesday afternoon, my desk phone rang at work. Specialist Mercer, there's a call for you holding. It's the Dayton Police Department. My stomach dropped exactly 1 inch. Then steadied. I'll take it. Ma'am, this is Officer Martinez. We've received a complaint from a Franklin Mercer regarding property at your home address. He's alleging unauthorized lockout and possible theft of belongings. I sat straight up in my chair, squared my shoulders, and let the army training take over. Officer, I understand completely. I can explain the full situation in detail. Would you like to come to the property? We're heading there now. Can you meet us in 30 minutes? Yes, ma'am. I will be there. I hung up. Called Nate. My dad called the police on us. 2 seconds of quiet. I'll have everything laid out. Meet you at home. I drove home with both hands on the wheel and a completely clear head. Frank had thrown everything he had at this situation. Guilt. Family pressure. Tears by proxy. My sister's ultimatum. The spare key. The secret backup key. The garage takeover. The disownment threat. The lie about me being deployed. None of it worked. So he dialed 911. I pulled into the driveway at 3:38 p.m. Patrol car out front. Nate's truck already there. 2 officers in the foyer, Officer Martinez and her partner Officer Park, who was taller and quieter and took careful notes. We sat at the dining table. The manila folder was already open in front of Nate, organized like a brief. He walked them through it item by item. The original 7-day pickup notice, printed, date stamped. Doorbell footage screenshots, Frank at the garage keypad 3 times trying the old key at the front door, kicking the garage. Time-stamped photos of every item with the full itemized list. Property deed, 2 names on it. Nate Mercer. Casey Mercer. Nobody else. Martinez flipped through every page. Park wrote notes. Neither of them said anything for about 2 full minutes. "Ma'am, this property is in your name and your husband's?" "Yes, ma'am. My father had a spare key which we replaced when we had reason to believe he might enter without permission. We gave 7 days written notice. He attempted to enter without calling on day 5, which the footage documents. He never scheduled the agreed pickup." Martinez nodded. She glanced at Park. Small nod back. "Based on what I'm looking at, this is a civil matter. Not criminal." 3 hard knocks at the front door. Martinez opened it. Frank on the porch. Chest up. Jaw locked. He looked past her, saw the officers, saw the folder, saw me sitting at that table with my hands folded in front of me. "I want my property back and I want her charged. She locked me out and she is holding my stuff hostage. Sir, your daughter gave written notice of the pickup period and documented your unauthorized entry attempt. The house is in her name. This is a civil matter, not a criminal one." Frank's face went red from the collar to the hairline. "She had no right to change those locks. I had a key to that house. Homeowners can change their locks at any time, sir." He turned to face me. Full rotation. Last card in the hand, nowhere else to go. "After everything I gave you. After 18 years. You bring police into my family?" Kept my voice level. Every word measured. "You missed my graduation. 3 weeks later you texted me for $8,000 like it was nothing. You moved into my garage without asking. You made a secret copy of my key without telling me. You tried to force your way in after I changed the locks. I paused and let it land. You kept asking me if I understood. Yeah, Dad. I finally understand everything." His mouth opened. Closed. His hands were shaking, not grief, not regret. Particular kind of anger that has completely run out of places to go. He looked at Officer Martinez. Her face was professional, neutral, immovable. "Sir, I'd recommend arranging a pickup time for your remaining items through mutual agreement. If this goes any further, it'll need to be handled in civil court." Frank walked out without another word. Left the front door hanging open behind him. Truck door slammed. Engine gunned. Tires left marks on the asphalt. The street went quiet. Officer Martinez handed the folder back to Nate at the door. "Ma'am," she said, pausing. "For what it's worth, you handled this really well. Most people don't document things the way you did. Thank you, officer. One more thing. If he comes back to this property without being invited, call us. That point it's trespassing." They left. I watched the patrol car pull away. I closed the door. Turned the new deadbolt. Pressed my back flat against it and just stood there. Nate came up behind me. Close enough to feel. Far enough to give me room. "It's done," I said. "It's done," he said. I went to the kitchen and opened the small drawer next to the stove. Rubber bands. Old batteries. A screwdriver. There was a small brass hook on the inside of the cabinet wall, the hook where my father's spare key had hung for 2 years. Hook was there. Key was long gone. I took the screwdriver and removed the hook. 30 seconds, 2 small screws. I held it in my palm. Just a little brass hook. Something you could find in a dollar bin at any hardware store. But it had held something in my house that had no business being there. I dropped it in the kitchen trash. It landed on the coffee grounds with a tiny sound. Some things just don't belong here anymore. 3 weeks later, I donated Frank's remaining items to the Salvation Army. He never called to set up a pickup. Never texted. Never filed the lawsuit Brittany had warned me about. Just nothing. The loudest nothing I had ever received from that man. Toolbox went first. Then the rods, the tackle box, the folding table, the boxes. One turned out to be full of hunting magazines from the early 2000s. The other held some drill bits and a framed photo of Frank at maybe 25 years old, standing next to his own father. Neither of them smiling. I looked at that photo for a long time. Then I put it in the donation box. Linda sent a handwritten letter. 2 pages on stationery with small blue flowers printed on the border. Page 1 was guilt. Page 2 was an ultimatum. When you're ready to apologize, we'll be here. I didn't write back. Devin called me a few days later. He'd been at the reception that night. After everyone started reading your message on their phones, your dad sat alone at a side table for about 20 minutes. Didn't eat. Didn't talk to anyone. Just sat there looking at his phone. Then he stood up, walked to the microphone, and gave his toast like nothing had happened at all. He paused. He looked old, Casey. I don't know how else to describe it. Really old. I didn't feel satisfaction when Devin said that. I didn't feel like I'd won anything. What I felt was something smaller and quieter, like a door closing on a room I'd lived in for 32 years. A room where I'd spent most of my life making myself a little smaller so everyone else could be a little more comfortable. That door was closed now. The month after everything settled down, I enrolled in an online MBA program. First class started in January. The GI Bill covered almost the whole thing. I didn't reach out to my parents. They didn't reach out to me. For the first time in my entire life, that silence didn't feel like a hole in my chest. Felt like open space. Like the first morning of something I had always known was out there waiting on the other side of all that noise. I want to close with this because if you've watched this far, I think you already know this applies to you too. People will call you selfish for having a limit. They will say you're cold, ungrateful, dramatic, that you're tearing things apart. As if the thing wasn't already torn. As if you haven't been the one quietly holding pieces together, with your own money, your own silence, your own endless capacity to understand, for longer than anyone ever acknowledged. Here is what I learned standing on a graduation field with 3 empty seats. People who actually love you don't make you earn it. They show up. They show up when it costs them something. They show up when your moment overlaps with someone else's. They show up because you matter to them, not because of what you provide. And if they won't show up for you, you have every right to stop showing up for them. That is not cruelty. That is not revenge. That is not you being selfish. That is you finally deciding that your own peace is worth protecting. That is the moment you stop being anyone else's fallback plan and start being the main character of your own story. 3 empty seats. $, and a Venmo notification. And a brand new deadbolt that changed everything. If this story hits something real for you, share it with someone who needs to hear it right now. Leave a comment and tell me. Have you ever been the one who always figures it out while your family shows up for everyone else? I read every single comment. And if you're new here, welcome to Silent Revenge. Subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss a story. New episodes drop every week, and some of them will genuinely keep you up at night. I'll see you in the next one.